with regards to fitness in my life, which has also helped me in my profession. People have this myth that, Bollywood is all about late night parties and drinking, revelries and, late night. I'm not a foodie. So I eat merely to live or survive. I eat everything, but in moderation, and I'm not very fussy. I choose to believe I have a farmer's diet.
We were competing, and I suddenly realized when I asked you that you were, I think, 10 or 12 years older than me. And I was like, my God, this guy is like this fit at 50.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that. Today we have with us Mr. Arif Zakaria. Arif is an actor whose work has spawned close to 3 decades. His work resonates across generations, and he has worked in theatre, television, films, and the new age streaming world. Thank you, Arif, for joining us.
Thank you, Isaac. That's a very warm welcome. Feels nice and gratifying. So thank you. Glad we are meeting away from the tennis court.
So one interesting thing about how Arif and I met is that we did not meet on a shooting set. It's the first time we were shooting something together, but we met on a tennis court. But before we get there, Arif, I would love to ask you this. This was, of course, my introduction for our viewers. But how does Arif Zakaria describe himself in 5 words or less?
Ooh, 5 words. Spontaneity is not exactly my forte. I think I'll describe myself in like 5 books or 5 things I do. But to cut a long story short, I think intuitive, procrastinator, sports buff, meditator, that's a new addition, and happy, I would say. To sum up in these 5 words, part of all these 5 words assimilates in my personality, I think.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. That gave us a little window into your life. Arif, I want to begin with, you're somebody, like I said, who's been around the scene for quite a while. What's the most exciting part about your profession? Like, for some of us who are outsiders, we just see you on the screen. Tell us what's really, really great about it.
So, and theatre started off with great joie de vivre and happiness and collective activity, and then slowly kind of seeped into a profession. Because I did a TV show when I was a student myself. That also helped. I was fortunate to be a part of a TV show as a student, and that opened up different doors and avenues. So I think, answering your question, I have no great message or to tell somebody who's venturing into the business for the very first time. But I think passion and a certain affinity for what you do keeps the wolf away, I think. That's essentially the bottom line. And then once you're in it, you kind of elbow yourself and make your way and make your mark and make your roads inside. But deep down, you need to have a drive and a core passion for doing it, because it's a very brutal line. It's not a common profession like any other profession. It's got ups and downs. It's got a lot of upheavals. So you take everything in a very calm, placid manner. Do what you are skilled or naturally inclined to do, and just be calm. That's what it is, really.
Got it. And with regards to, like, again, your work, are there times that, you mentioned something about the upheavals? I also know you as somebody who's actually extremely fit. I know you go swimming. You, of course, spend a lot of time on the court. What are some of the things that have, helped you kind of maintain that sense of calm along the way? You mentioned you're a meditator, but give us a sense of what are some of your most engaged activities that are keeping you healthy and balanced today?
So I was fortunate that I had a parallel interest in sports all my life, really. I used to play cricket for my school, cricket for college. I used to play various other sports for my college, badminton. I dabbled into swimming, tennis much later in life. Athletics was there, running was there, gym. I used to go to the gym next to my house for eons, really. I've just gone and been involved and had a discipline with regards to fitness in my life, which has also helped me in my profession. So I think having an activity, having an outdoor activity is really the panacea, really, for all your ills. If you can manage and sustain an outdoor activity, any racket sport or any such activity, it will really help you. It really helps you calm your mind. It gives you an energy outlet, and it keeps your system working, which really helps you tide over the ups and downs happening on the other part of the world, which is your profession, perhaps. So I think it's important to have a sustained, regular, disciplined, outdoorsy activity, as you know, and I know, all your life, really. That's as simple as that, really, nothing beyond that. You just get the sunshine and some fresh air, not so fresh in the cities now, but you just get the sunlight in your system early in the morning for a couple of hours, doing whatever you like. I think that helps. That really helps.
And with the schedule that you perhaps sometimes are asked to maintain, for perhaps a lot of travel, irregular hours, etc., when you sometimes go off the treadmill, like you were not able to do what you would normally do on the outdoors, how do you come back? And do you find it difficult to come back at all, or it just like has happened very naturally for you now?
No, because wherever in the world you travel, you have facilities of a gym. And I personally believe that you don't really need great space to exercise. Like 4 tiles are enough to stand and do anything you want, whether you're doing a yoga stretch, whether you're doing just meditation, whether you're deep breathing or even skipping. All you need is a 100-rupee rope and 4 tiles and you can skip. So that's an excuse people make that, oh, we don't have the space, we don't have the time. And coming back to time, you always have time. I just find this I keep listening to people who say we don't have the time to exercise. That's weird. You always have some time in, say, 16 or 18 hours of your waking hours or 19 hours to allocate 10 minutes or 15 minutes to just do some vigorous activity. I mean, that's really what it is. You don't need space, a defined space, nor do you need a great amount of time to keep fit. You don't need anything actually. It's not even expensive. People say, oh, gym membership, you can go to the park. The parks are free of charge. I live across a park. You go to a park and you can just do anything you want, any point of time. Nobody stops you. So I think it's just your own calling which you really need to answer and address that through all these avenues which are around us all the time.
Arif, we spoke a lot about, like the outdoorsy activities that you mentioned. What about food? Is that an important component of your lifestyle? How do you go about it? Or are you very liberal when it comes to just eating whatever, is served?
I used to be liberal when I was younger. But the good thing is I'm not a foodie. So I eat merely to live or survive. So that to a large extent sorts the issues with food in my system. But having said that, I eat everything, but in moderation, and I'm not very fussy. I choose to believe I have a farmer's diet. Like whatever is on the table, I'll eat that without asking for anything more. And that I think is, as I've realized as I've grown older, cuts all unnecessary food which goes into your system. So I've never been a foodie. I never go the extra mile to search for some exotic food. I don't have an issue even if there is no food. I mean, I'm not sounding like a very savant or something. But that's the key, really. So that restricts your food intake. And over a period of time, you fine-tune and eat only what you think is necessary. But having said that, it's not that I pretty much eat everything, but in a limited way. So that naturally helps me sustain my calorie intake by just cutting the food and limiting it. As simple as that.
Interesting you use the words calorie intake. Is that something that you measure or have measured in the past? Are you scientific about it?
No, not really. I don't measure or study what food gives what calorie and how much do I accumulate in my body. Nothing at all. I eat what I feel is good and seemingly healthy, and I eat as much as I can. But then there are phases where I go off certain foods which I'm addicted to or whatever it is. But I'm not addicted to any food in the world. So that's a good thing as you grow older. When you are told through all these diet fads, where they have these intermittent fasting or they have the other diet fads which tell you to restrict your calories. But in a natural way, because I'm not a foodie, I realized I'm restricting it anyway. So it's okay. So far it's worked for me. It keeps me energetic. Of course, the occasional indulgence is there, as we all know. There's no hard and fast because your system also needs to get used to all the rubbish you have, and that I think also activates your immunity really more than anything else. Living in Bombay and living in a profession. So when I started off acting, I used to eat on the set, and the food served on our film shoots is not very good. It's mass produced. It's produced with a lot of urgency. They add a lot of ingredients and elements which cook it faster, which, as we all know, depletes all the natural nutrition there. But now I'm cautious. Since last many years, I take food from home. And having said that, even the food on the set, because most of the actors have become very health conscious, they also cater and bring food which is a little more sustainable and healthier as opposed to what it was maybe a decade ago. So it's worked both ways actually. Yeah.
So are you saying that food on sets has generally gotten more and more healthier and
Yes.
in general?
Yes, it has got more healthier. There's a more, thanks to all the health awareness in the last few years, thanks to we being so conscious about food and fitness being, you know, just a very common fad amongst everybody, youngsters and old, and actors and senior actors and younger actors specifically who are, you know, more careful about what they eat and put in their bodies. So overall, I think holistically it's worked. That the food quality now is much better than what it used to be. I've seen it with my own eyes, really. And the caterers themselves have been given the diktat that, you know, you cook healthy foods, or you get salads, or you get, you know, less oil food, and so on and so forth. So it's good. Now it's good.
Got it. Arif, one of the first impressions I have of you on a tennis court is we were competing, and I suddenly realized when I asked you that you were, I think, 10 or 12 years older than me. And I was like, my God, this guy is like this fit at 52.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that. So tell me, I mean, there's definitely something to be taken off from there. Are there things that you consistently did in your 30s and 40s that's now brought you to a point where, you know, you can compete very naturally with, let's say, younger people? Is that something that you can share with our audience?
I think if I look back on my life, it's a sense of discipline, which, as I said earlier, theatre inculcated in me. And I think my mother, who's 86, she's a Parsi woman, so she has naturally good genes. She had a certain sense of discipline when she ate what she ate. So I think that seeped in somewhere into my DNA and my system. So I think I am fairly disciplined with my life throughout. Even in my younger days, when I was 30, 35, I didn't swing the extremes, you know, in that phases of life where you're exposed to a lot of things and there is a tendency to go the other way. You would have gone down that path, but you kind of retreated and came back, realizing that no, that's not good enough for me. So that's helped. And I think that's what helps. If you put your health before everything else, if you are disciplined before any other great understanding of anything in the world you have, that helps you. And as you grow older, that really helps. So now I have disciplined times. We have a tennis in the morning, or some physical activity in the morning, if not tennis. And yoga a few times a week or a few times a month. I go to a yoga class. So that has helped me do it very actively because of an inherent sense of discipline which I had, which I think comes from theatre. And I traveled with this Bollywood show called Merchants of Bollywood. I mean, I'm giving you an aside on what it is. So I really inculcated a sense of discipline there because we traveled all over the world and we had a foreign crew and they were sticklers for time. So we were up at a certain time, we reached the venue at a certain time, and the show had to begin at a certain time. We had to cool down at a certain time. I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And when I came back, I subconsciously realized that I'm actually doing it because now I'm on autopilot with that. And that's helped me. That's helped me till date. As simple as that. So just an inherent sense of discipline, if you can inculcate within yourself, it helps. And there's no reason to be indisciplined. You know, all that, even the whole style of our business, people have this myth that, you know, Bollywood is all about late night parties and drinking, revelries and, you know, late night and all. It is to a certain extent, but you can also choose not to be a part of that, yet be who you are. That's it.
That's a great message. And you also touched upon, you know, your mother.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what are the things that you have seen her do well as she started entering her 50s and 60s that, you know, people could take a leaf out of their
I think nothing really, but she just had a fixed time for eating, fixed time to sleep, fixed time when she had a cup of tea. Even now she's about 86 and like a little bit of physically frail now. But she still inculcates that sense of discipline. She won't eat anything in between meals and she'll sleep at a specific hour, wake up at a specific hour, that first cup of tea comes at a specific hour. So it is now pretty much her muscle memory. And that also helps. So your body gets tuned to expect food at a certain hour and nothing beyond that. Because now, see, we're also living in this age of rampant consumerism. You get food all the time and you get food everywhere. So, you know, your eating habits go for a toss. You go to the bank, you might get a cup of coffee. You go anywhere. I go to in my club, people are eating there first. And I have, you know, they take breaks with sandwiches and samosas and all that because food is available all the time. But if you have a sense of discipline, if you have those fixed hours, that helps you cut all the food noise from your life, which I think helps because by and large, we're always eating more than what we really need to. I think all of us.
So some discipline, fixed schedule are some of the
Pretty
things
much.
that
All
you know
these little
to-
things add up at the end, really.
Got it.
All these little things add up.
You know, one of the things when Ivory started out, we realized was missing in this whole discourse was, you know, how our aging parents are taking care of their mental stimulation, of their brain health. And again, it's a sort of a topic that, you know, we are obviously very passionate about and we want to ingrain it a lot more. But is there anything that, let's say, you know, you've seen not just your mother, but maybe, you know, elders in your family do that struck you as maybe that's something that, you know, I should do when I turn a 60s and 70s for mental stimulation?
There's a lot of conversation now about mental stimulation. I think just an active mind is the basic parameter for hopefully delaying. See, it's inevitable. If it has to come, it will come to all of us. For delaying all these mental diseases. So I think just keeping an active mind. Now, I read somewhere people say crossword helps, knitting helps, sewing helps, housework helps, people say. All these kind of activities. So any activity which pushes your mind and stimulates your mind on a daily basis, I think is what it is. Otherwise, to a large extent, it's also hereditary and genetics which plays a part. I know a friend of mine whose brother is relatively young, but they've discovered the onset of Alzheimer's at a young age. So all these things keep happening, but I don't know. I mean, there is no mantra or a specific activity by which you could prevent it. You can delay it. Active mind is always very good. Just keep your mind engaged and active in some positive activity all your conscious life.
No, that's a great message, you know, for our audience. I want to go back to, you know, the professional part of things
Yeah.
and ask you a little bit about, you know, the stress management part of things. You know, acting is stressful, right? I think even when I think it's one of those professions that even when you have a job, it's stressful, and even when you don't have it, it's stressful because you don't have it, right? So, how do you manage, you know, your stress? What are there any stress management techniques that have worked for you that you know you can share with us, especially coming with like this such a cauldron of you know stress that this profession seems to be?
I think you have to understand very early on that the profession has its ups and downs. You need to develop a thick hide. That's very important for the profession. And as I said earlier, if you have a passion for the profession, then you tide over the grey days or the bad days also. And there is nothing really. You just have to enjoy being in the cycle of the entire. You enjoy the pain, you enjoy the complexity, and you have some nice side activity going on. Like sports has been with me all through my life. Exercise has been with me all through my life. Maybe not in so many words, but I think that counterbalances or offsets all the low phases in my professional life, and that's true. So we have like a social group for tennis. I have a social, my college mates are also into sport and activity. We meet quite often. There is much to do nowadays. So that keeps your mind diverted from the pitfalls of the profession. And as we know, the profession is full of ups and downs, upheavals. But you have to have a strong resolve, a thick hide. You have to understand what you're in it. Your expectations need to be very clear. What you're expecting from it, what you want from this, how satisfied are you with where you are. And you just have to find your way within that. It's as any other profession really. That's the simple truth.
Arif, as you enter your 60s, and I know you're some way off there, what are some of the things that you've done in your 50s that you know you would continue? And is there anything that you know you would want to stop from your current lifestyle?
Less stress, be more calmer, be more accepting of who you are, what is happening to you. And that automatically makes you a little more easy. Be less hard upon yourself. Have fixed hours for things, really. Discipline, accentuate your discipline. Really, if you had it at 50s, you should have it at 60s also. If you had it at 45, you should try and make it more pronounced when you're in your 50s. And I think eventually, as I heard somewhere, that eat food as medicine once you grow older. So if all these combinations, you can somehow find yourself in the middle of that. Might help, who knows? Who knows? There's no mantra essentially to make your next decade more fruitful as the past went by. So it's a combination of a lot of factors, really.
Thanks, Arif. On that very wise note
I don't know if that's wise.
about you know treating food as medicine. we will cap off today's podcast with Arif Zakaria. Thank you so much for tuning in to us, and thank you so much, Arif, for being a part of this.
Thank you.
We will continue our on-court battles very soon.
And I have to beat you now.
You have beaten me before.
You're being modest and nice.
But thank you seriously.
Thank you.
And we hope to
my pleasure.
see you again.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.